I would like to request Dr. Madhav, Akhil Bharatiya Karyakarini Sadasya RSS, President of India Foundation, to address the audience.
आदरणीय संघ चालक जी, डॉक्टर अश्वत्थ नारायण जी, श्री राजेश पद्मार जी, and all the distinguished citizens of Bengaluru city, especially Malleshwaram and the surrounding areas. I am delighted to see so many people present on a Sunday evening for a lecture like this. It shows that number one, the host organization is doing a lot of good work, and number two, you are also very eager to delve deep into the topic of the day, namely the Uniform Civil Code. Friends, in 1978, a peculiar case came before the magistrate court in Indore in Madhya Pradesh. There was a guy called Muhammad Ahmad Khan. He was a lawyer. He married a lady called Shah Bano Begum. The marriage happened in 1932. This guy decided to divorce this lady in 1975. At that time, that lady, Shah Bano's age was 62 years. She had no source of income. The couple already had about 5 children. When this lawyer decided to abandon his wife at the advanced age of 62, 63 years, this wife sought some maintenance money. The guy refused. He said, "We are Muslims. Under this Muslim personal law, I'm not obligated to give you any maintenance money." This poor lady did not have any other means of survival. She approached the Indore Magistrate Court in 1978. The Magistrate Court looked into the whole case, whole matter, and decided in favor of this lady. But the judgment said that this guy, this lawyer, should pay rupees 25 per month as maintenance. The lady was naturally aggrieved. Number one, 25 rupees is not the kind of maintenance money that one would expect. Secondly, this guy was not so poor as to be given that kind of benefit of just paying 25 rupees to the wife that he was divorcing. So this lady approached the High Court, Indore bench. After 2 years of great contemplation, the High Court said, "All right, 25 rupees is very low. Please pay her 150 rupees per month as maintenance." Instead of agreeing to the judgment, this gentleman, Ahmad Khan, went to Supreme Court, saying that I am not obliged under the Muslim personal law to pay, forget about 150, even a single penny to this lady. Because maybe under Hindu law, a divorcee has the right to get some maintenance, but under Muslim law, there is no such provision. We don't have to pay anything to the woman that we are divorcing. This case went on for 5 years in Supreme Court. At the end of 5 years, Supreme Court, imagine 5 years somebody going to Supreme Court, how much money he would have spent. This guy spent all that money but refused to pay 150 rupees as maintenance because his argument was, under my Muslim personal law, I don't have to pay anything. The Supreme Court, after great deliberation again after 5 years, decided that 150 is too meager, pay 500 rupees. That is called the famous Shabano judgment. Many of us know about it. The tragedy of Shabano's judgment was that in the first place, it was how should we put it, insensitive a judgment that only 500 rupees as maintenance. But what was worse was this issue was taken up by All India Muslim Personal Law Board. They made a major political campaign out of it, reached out to the then Prime Minister and the then government, and they managed to get a law passed in the Parliament in 1986, affirming that Muslim personal law would prevail, meaning this husband is not obligated to pay any maintenance, but since the court has mandated 500 rupees to be paid as maintenance to this poor lady Shabano, the state will pay. The guy won't pay. You all have to pay. Because state means what? We all pay the taxes. From that state gets money. So that guy will say triple talaq and give up that lady, end the marriage, and we all compensate the woman. This is called the famous Shabano case of 1980s, which became a big controversy. I'm not going very much into it. But in that 1985 judgment, which awarded, little extra money to this poor lady, from 150, it was made to 500. The then Chief Justice was Y.V. Chandrachud, father of the present Chief Justice of India. Y.V. Chandrachud made a fervent appeal that time has come for us to end this business of separate laws, separate personal laws. We should promulgate a uniform civil code. He asked the government to consider that. It's another matter that Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister. Rajiv Gandhi's government, instead of listening to the Supreme Court, listened to the All India Muslim Personal Law Board and reaffirmed the validity of Muslim personal law. Then in 1995, another similar case came before the court. This also reached up to Supreme Court. In this particular matter, one guy he was a married guy, wanted to have another woman as his wife. He simply got converted to Islam and married, citing the Shariat as our Muslim personal law as a validation for his act of having more than one wife, which we call in English as polygamy. Technically, under Sharia it is allowed. Under Muslim personal law it is allowed. So Supreme Court once again told the government that, don't consider Muslim personal law as a personal matter of Muslims alone. It can affect anybody. In this case, it is affecting a Hindu. A Hindu husband and wife, they are affected because this guy decided to convert. There is a very famous case in Kerala where a Muslim couple married under the Muslim law, Muslim personal law, nikah they call it, which is sanctified by a Qaji, by a Maulvi. After about 15 years of their marriage, they decided to marry again under Hindu law. The reason was they had 3 daughters. Under the Muslim personal law, the property of the parents, only half of it can go to the daughters, remaining half will go to the next male successor. In this case, because there was no son in that family, this would go to the brother of that person. So in order to secure their property and give it whole property to their daughters, they had to remarry under Hindu Act. That is why Supreme Court in 1995 said, don't consider Muslim personal law as Muslim-related law. It can affect the entire society. We didn't listen. In 2003, in another matter, Justice Khare, who was the Chief Justice of Supreme Court, again asked the government, come on, time has come, how long can you postpone it? Do it. We don't do it. In 2015, the fourth time, Supreme Court once again reminded the government, but probably time has come for you to consider it. In 2021, Saira Bano, one Muslim lady, went to Supreme Court again, asked the Supreme Court, why don't you, relieve us of our sufferings, this polygamy, this triple talaq, why don't you relieve us? Supreme Court again suggested to government, why not it be done away with? At least 5 times, India's Supreme Court has asked the government that it should go. In 2015, 2 women wrote a letter to our Prime Minister, Noorjahan Safia Niaz, Jakia Soman. These 2 women, 2 Muslim women, they had an organization called Bharatiya Muslim Mahila Andolan, nothing to do with RSS BJP. It's an independent organization of the Muslim women. They wrote a letter to Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, in that they demanded that from Shabano in 1985 till date, Muslim women have never been heard in matters concerning their lives, thanks to the politics of our country. You are not listening to women, Muslim women. Muslim women, certain orthodox and patriarchal males have stonewalled any attempt towards reform in Muslim personal law. In the process, Muslim women have been denied their Quranic rights as well as their rights as equal Indian citizens. Almost all Muslim countries, they went on and on. They actually gave some data to our Prime Minister. They said they conducted a survey among the Muslim women. And as per their survey, an overwhelming 92.1% women wanted a total ban on triple talaq. Oral or written. Talaq should be banned. 91%. 91.7% opposed polygamy, multiple wives. 83.3% women said that codification of Muslim law will help Muslim women get justice. Muslim women demanded it. In fact, these 2 women of the Bharatiya Muslim Mahila Andolan, they prepared actually a draft. What happened in the last 8 years was some of the issues that these women flagged in 2015 were taken up by present government of Prime Minister Modi ji. Number 1, the practice of triple talaq has been ended in this country. There is some legal formality remaining. Once that is also done, this process of triple talaq is no longer available to the Muslim males in our country. It's a great justice being delivered to Muslim women. It's not a religious question, because in the entire Muslim world, including our neighbors, Bangladesh and Pakistan, triple talaq is not there. Remember, they are Islamic countries. They follow Sharia law, but they legally prohibited triple talaq as the means of divorce. Even if you promulgate triple talaq, it has to be ratified by a legal agency. You can't simply say triple talaq. It used to be so very inhuman that he would send an SMS or a WhatsApp talak, 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 and you are gone. Or in the sleep, in the dream, by mistake, people do dream talking, like dream walking. In the dream, he says by mistake, talak, talak, talak. The lady next to him is gone. His wife. This used to be the practice. So, that practice is not validated in Islamic countries like Turkey, Tunisia, Egypt, even Syria, Pakistan, Bangladesh. It's not valid. So our government of Modi ji said, okay, in India also, we will not allow that simple talaq to end the marriage. So there is a legal system being put in place. Similarly, these women of Bharatiya Muslim Mahila Andolan demanded that, Hindu law prohibits marriage below 18 years of age for girls. But there is no such restriction in the Muslim personal law. As a result, a girl can be married off at the age of 12. By the time that girl becomes 18, she would be the mother of 2 or 3 children. And early age pregnancies lead to so many complications of women. They die, they suffer, they struggle for the whole life. The government declared 21 years as the minimum marriageable age for everybody across the board, including Muslim women. This is a humanitarian gesture. This is about gender justice. This is about equality. In that same spirit, today, if Prime Minister says that why not we have one uniform civil code for the whole country, where is any controversy in this? As I said, if a Muslim earns a lot of money, he has a lot of money, suppose, then he wants to start a trust to run this college. This college is run by women. If there is a Muslim gentleman, he wants to start a trust. Do you know that under Muslim personal law, he has no authority or power to start a trust? He cannot start a trust. All that money he wants to contribute for the development of any social activity has to be given to Waqf board. Only Waqf is allowed. You can't have individual charity. Is it justified? So the whole effort is more about humanity, more about equality, more about gender justice, less about religion. Even assuming there is a religion component of it, if it is wrong, it should go. Do you know that among the Hindus, we used to have many types of different laws, like we used to have Mitakshara law in Eastern India. Some people used to follow different kinds of Hindu codes. But in 1954, 55, 56, government of Nehru decided that all these laws should be brought under a codified law. That's how Hindu Code Bill came into existence. Some people had objections to it also. There used to be a party called Ramarajya Parishad those days. Ramarajya Parishad was against certain reforms under Hindu Code Bill. But the wider Hindu society has accepted it. Hindu Code Bill included Hindus, Buddhists, Jains and Sikhs, and created a common civil code for all these people who constitute 80-83% of Indians. Now tell me, 80-83% of Indians have one common code, Is it justified that 13, 14%, 15% demand that our civil code should be separate? Why should matters like marriage, divorce, succession, adoption be different? My father was an advocate. We used to get an old client who was a Muslim farmer. He had 3 sons and 1 daughter, or 2 sons and 1 daughter, I don't remember exactly. He used to argue with my father that I want to divide my property equally among my 3 children. My father used to explain to him that you can't do. You can only give a little amount of it to your daughter, but the rest of it has to be equally divided between your sons. But he would say, but you give same amount of share to your children. Why can't I give? My father used to tell him, but you are guided by a separate law. But why should he be guided by a separate law? Why not it be equal? Friends, this was to be actually a common law for the whole country. When Constitution was being made, the original proposal was to have only one civil law for the whole country. But there was a minority subcommittee in the Constituent Assembly. The minority subcommittee had raised objection to it. They said that we have our personal laws, we want to be guided by the personal laws. You can't impose your laws on us. Unfortunately, the then leadership, Nehru and others, were of the view that, okay, we should not impose anything on them. So they decided that let us keep it under the directive principles of state policy. What are directive principles of state policy? They are the objectives of the government after independence. When an independent government is formed, that government would strive to achieve them. They are called directive principles. They are not for the citizens. They are for the government to achieve. They are called directive principles of state policy. State should endeavor to achieve them. One of them was Article 44, under which this Uniform Civil Code came. Even then, there was a big objection from Minority Committee, Constituent Assembly's Minority Affairs Committee. They objected, saying that no, don't call it uniform. You call it optional Uniform Civil Code. It's an oxymoron. You know, those who know English well will tell that either it has to be optional or it has to be uniform. It cannot be optional uniform. Uniform means for everybody. Optional means for those who want. So those two cannot go. So Ambedkar stood up and said, Baba, this won't work. I can't give that kind of a definition to this act. Okay, I leave it to the independent government to implement it in future, because maybe today you are not ready, but maybe 10 years hence, 15 years hence, you will be ready. But those days, Ambedkar had another reason also for doing that. He wanted Hindu Code Bill also to become a part of the very constitution itself. He wanted a reformed code, social code, civil code for Hindus. Nehru said no. Nehru's view was, right now we are in the midst of so much of turmoil. We just came out of partition, Hindus, Muslims, these religious tensions. I don't want this tamasha now. Maybe Nehru had some other views about it. We can't say anything. But Nehru was not in favor of introducing Hindu Code Bill as part of the first constitution itself. In protest to Nehru's refusal or resistance or reservation over Hindu Code Bill, Ambedkar resigned from the Congress, resigned from the cabinet, went away. But since Hindu Code Bill was not happening, Ambedkar was agreeable that Muslim personal laws to be removed and Uniform Civil Code to be brought about can be a part of the directive principles of state policy. Remember, in 1950, Hindus also had their personal laws. When our constitution came into being, just as Muslims had personal laws, Hindus also had personal laws. In 1954, when the Nehru government decided to implement a uniform civil code for all Hindus, which is called Hindu Code Bill, right? Hindu Code Bill was a uniform code for all Hindus who were having different personal law, should be codified, brought under one bill. Why did he not bring Muslims also under that and Christians also under that? Again, Nehru explanation in 1954 was, no, Muslims are not ready yet. So let me first do it for Hindus. We will do it later for Muslims. So we had an opportunity to bring a uniform code for the whole country, a civil code for the whole country in 1954. Hindus, except for a few groups here and there, broadly accepted that reform. We today have a common code where the marriage is fixed. You can have only one wife. We used to have polygamy among Hindus also. And there is a procedure for divorce. You can't just simply divorce just like that. It is a legal procedure. There is a definite way of succession that has been improved in 1956 when Hindu Succession Act came. It clearly stated that women in the house will get equal share. Look at the Hindu progressive attitude. We did not oppose. We said we welcome it. In our household, our girls have equal rights as boys. We accepted it. Hindu Code Bill included Jains, Buddhists, and Sikhs. It's another matter. Subsequently, in 1970s, Buddhists were declared as minority. In 1991, Sikhs were declared as minority. In 2014, Jains were declared as minority. But original Article 25 includes all of them under the definition Hindu, and Hindu Code Bill is applicable to all of them. We had a civil code which is applicable to all except Muslims, Christians, and Parsis. Parsis are a very small minority. And as far as Christians are concerned, they only have one act which talks about succession, that is inheritance. On that, they have a 1925 Vintage Act. That can be amended. Many Christians don't follow that nowadays. Other than that, in any case, in Christianity, especially if you are a Catholic Christian, divorce is a sin. You can't divorce. Once married, married for life. So they don't have that problem. They don't have any system of talaq. So largely they follow the country's civil code. But there is this peculiar challenge with the Muslim personal law. Now, one last point I place and end, maybe we can discuss a few, we can take up a few questions afterwards. Now, the argument of Mr. Sultan Salahuddin Owaisi or the Muslim Personal Law Board is that it is a divine law. The law was given by Allah. So you can't change it. Do you know? The Sharia law or Muslim personal law was promulgated not by Allah but by the British. It was in 1937 that what is called as Anglo-Muslim Act, Sharia Act, was promulgated by the British government in 1937. Before 1937, anyway, we did not have one government in the whole country. British were controlling parts of India, but there were independent kingdoms and all. In most of the kingdoms, Muslims were following the existing Hindu law. Never was there any objection. In fact, in 1891, there was a census conducted for the first time by the British, and they wanted to determine the religion of the citizens. Those days, Bengal used to be the biggest province in India with almost 8 crore population. India's population was around 30 crores, out of which 8 crores used to live in one province called Bengal. The Census Commissioner of Bengal recorded that it is very difficult to differentiate between Hindus and Muslims because the Muslims also participate in Holi, Diwali, Durga Puja. They also perform all this Chhat Puja and all these things. So it is very difficult to determine who is a Hindu and who is a Muslim. Same was the situation in Maharashtra in 1911 census. They said that, many rituals are common to everybody. This whole separation, we are separate, was actually a product of Muslim League thinking. It was Jinnah's jinni that led to this kind of separatist attitude among the Muslims in this country. So it was nothing to do with the Islamic religious, doctrines or whatever. I told you, in the entire Islamic world, this kind of personal laws are not sanctioned. They are not allowed. So this argument that it is a divine law, you cannot tamper with it, is utterly baseless. Having said it, this Uniform Civil Code, which Honorable Prime Minister has talked about, is something on which the Law Commission of India is working. We have not yet seen any draft of it. We are already jumping. It's against Muslims, against Islam. What will happen to our identity? Nothing will happen. There is no threat to any religion in this country. This law will bring some kind of uniformity in our social behavior. It's not going to affect your religion. So the propaganda that is going on, even before there was any draft law before us, is just either a political ploy or a communal rhetoric. Friends, the Uniform Civil Code was the dream of the makers of our Constitution. They wanted a uniform civil code implemented for the whole country. That is Article 44. It was demanded again and again by the country's highest court, namely the Supreme Court of India. 4 or 5 judgments mandated that there should be a uniform civil code for all the people of this country. We already have a uniform code for 82% of Indians. We need to have it for 100% of Indians. And number 3, most importantly, the Muslims themselves, especially the women of Muslim community, in large numbers means more than 90% of the Muslim women today want freedom from this so-called unjust, anti-woman Muslim personal law. So in its own wisdom, the government will take a proper view after consultation with all the stakeholders. When I say stakeholders, they include Muslim Personal Law Board also, AMPLAB also, Muslim Personal Law Board also. Everybody will be consulted. But the bottom line is, what the makers of India's Constitution visualized in the form of Article 44 of India's Constitution, namely, the state shall endeavor to bring a uniform civil code for all the citizens of India, must be realized sooner than later. Thank you.
The forum is now open for Q&A. Those who have questions, please be seated at your place until you get the mic and raise your hands. Our volunteer will hand over the mic.
Already given. May I?
The gentleman in the front can ask his question. Please hand over the mic. He has. Let's keep the questions concise and relevant to today's topic, please.
Sir, I have to ask two questions. I have to ask two questions. One is, this in Kerala they follow one law known as Marimakka Thai business, something like that. And you please throw some light on that. And also the second question is that this lady, you know, I vaguely read somewhere, this Arundhati Roy, her, she had a case, you know, that her mother fought some cases and then there were some Christian laws and all that. Some idea of that, please enlighten.
See, in India, we have a large number of different traditions and practices. Not everything is going to be questioned by Uniform Civil Code, please remember. Many traditions will continue. Uniform Civil Code will only bother about 4 or 5 things: marriage, divorce, succession, adoption, and alimony. In the event of divorce, alimony. Only on these 4 or 5 issues which are very basic humanitarian questions. Even in that, not about the ritual part of it. How do you marry? It is up to you. But in a marriage, marriage means one man and one wife. That is the marriage. That is the institution of marriage. Like that, these 5 issues will be judiciously incorporated in a common civil code or uniform civil code. Rest of the traditions will continue. Among Hindus, there are many traditions. You know, in South India, marrying mother's brother is allowed, isn't it? Mama is allowed. North India, mother's brother is like father. Here, cousins, sons of brother and sister can marry in South. But in North, sons of brother and sister are also brother and sister. They can't marry. So these rituals, nobody is going to interfere. These are all customs. Nobody is going to interfere. But whenever you marry, you have to have only one wife or one husband. And there is a procedure to divorce. Because, as I said, it's not going to impact only one community. I told you several examples. You know, I don't want to rake up any, controversy about any celebrities. But you know the names of celebrities who, for the sake of second marriage, converted to Islam. Don't you know? You know. Everybody knows. Should we allow that kind of a thing? That is where a code, where if you want to marry somebody else, properly divorce your existing, partner. Then you go for it. That procedure needs to be followed by everybody. Nobody should have a shortcut in the form of some personal law, this, that. To that extent, this is limited. Otherwise, so much diversity exists in our country. Thank you.
Next question from Mayur's side, this side of the audience.
Second might be based on a niche. Yeah, please.
Namaste, Ram Madhavji. I have a question. What you said has been very clear, and we got a clearer picture now. My question is, as a Hindu, what can I expect from this? Will there be any changes in Hindu Worship Act? Because that actually, is harming our culture, our tradition, our heritage. So other than that, what is in it for Hindu to be happy to have UCC?
No, UCC, as I said, doesn't deal with worship and other things. We have endowment laws that deal with certain places of worship for Hindus. That is a separate law that exists. This deals with majorly these 5 issues. So, if at some point government decides something is being contemplated, if some point government decides to hand the temples back to Hindus, which may happen very soon also, government is really contemplating, the society, the Hindu society should be in a position to manage them. No, you are all very happy when I said if it is given back to us, I mean, probably sometime soon we will get the control of temples back. But can you equally give that equally enthusiastic commitment that once they are back in our hands, in 2 months' time, we will not go to court about who will be the chairman of this temple? We won't fight over the control of the rituals there. Where is the guarantee? At least for Sikhs, there is one SGPC. For Muslims, there is a Muslim Waqf. For Catholics, they have their own hierarchy. हमारे यहाँ तो हर एक तो भगवान है. तो हमारे यहाँ भी काफी कुछ व्यवस्थाएं, institutions have to be prepared to, to before you bring in that big reform. It's not easy. Just like that you hand over the temple, then you will start fighting. अमेरिका में 500 temples का केस कोर्ट में है. अमेरिका में. Having gone there also, we won't give up our habit. Fighting. How can he became president illegally? You go to court. So we also have to have institutions in our country to manage our religious affairs also. That means our religious institutions have to become more active. They have to start playing bigger role. Many things have to happen. But yes, that demand, that reform, that Hindu places of worship should go back into the hands of Hindus is a very valid and a long-standing demand which shall be realized sooner than later. But uniform civil code is a different issue.
Let's have a question from this side. Mayur side. Mayur, please hand over the mic.
Ji, namaste. First of all, thank you for throwing some light on UCC. As you stated, some of the social evils, such as triple talaq, which were removed earlier, there are other social evils within certain communities, like nikah halala, which talks about the remarriage inside a Muslim community, which is still something equal to a triple talaq or a kind of a thorny process. And there are other, you talked about traditions which will not be touched by UCC, but there are things which are not under tradition but are neo-social culture, which are developing in urban areas or in the parts of Kerala and West Bengal, like Arabi Kalyanam and like live-in relations. Will UCC have some kind of effect on these things also?
Yes, of course. Nikah halala under UCC will not be a valid way of ending marriage. It won't, I mean, all those systems that are linked to, there is a concept of iddat after divorce. All these things will change. Everything will come under the purview of a law, of a legal process. So, hitherto, the community is at the mercy of the religious leadership. Hereafter, it will be at the mercy of our constitution. And constitution does not discriminate. So, issues like iddat, nikah halala, certain, WhatsApp University has given you a lot of knowledge about these things. But some are exaggerated. She has to sleep with somebody else. They are exaggerated. But there are many things that need to change with respect to these aspects. Marriage, divorce, succession, etc. They all will change.
Hello. Ramji Vijay Prasad here. After UCC becomes law, it should be applied to all states uniformly. Non-BJP ruled states will not implement at all. How are we going to address this?
No, firstly, this will become a law under the Constitution of India. Article 44 of India's Constitution will be implemented. It's a directive principle right now. It will be implemented. That means that whatever law comes out of that will be a part of our constitutional process. So no government can say that I will go against the constitutional process. So nobody can do that. But for passing that law, there is a certain parliamentary procedure to be followed. Like, there is a specific kind of majority required in both the houses of parliament. So that means all the different stakeholders have to be taken on board. So that procedure, once followed, I'm sure will be accepted by everybody in the country.
Namaste ji. You actually made it very clear. We were all worried about so many things. But again, we Hindus have always compromised. Like you said, when the Hindu Civil Code came, without any protest, we all came into the fold. So when UCC finally comes and it starts expanding, first it will be just the 4 or 5 points. Then it will come to the worship. So is there somebody going to give guarantee that we will not be bulldozed, or again we will not be made to be compromised in any way to accommodate other religious...
No, cross the bridge when you reach. Let the draft come out. If there are any issues of concern for anybody else, they can always be raised. That's why I said no draft is before us. So, I come from Andhra Pradesh. We have a saying in Andhra Pradesh, Alu ledu, chulu ledu, koduk per somalingam. Telugu people understand it. There is no marriage, no wife. There is a big fight over the name of the son. No marriage, no wife. But we are already fighting. So, let the draft come out. If there are any concerns for Hindus, they also will be addressed. Remember, it is a common civil code. So, everybody will be incorporated into it. If there are issues, they will be discussed. You should approach your MP, you should talk to him. He should raise his voice there also. He raises his voice here very much, I know that. He should raise there also. He should talk if there are any issues. But I'm sure all the concerns will be properly accommodated in whatever form it comes. But again, I'm saying not even a draft has come now. Prime Minister has only said it. There is a huge bawal.
You mentioned that succession laws are also part of this UCC. There are some contradictions in Hindu code itself, like the differences between individuals and HUF. How this is going to be reconciled within the Hindu code bill, and how it will be incorporated in the UCC that is at the annual.
Yeah, of course. Hindu united family related questions might come up when that succession issue has been made common to everybody. I agree with you. There are certain concerns about Hindu united family. Concerns are very interesting. The concerns are about tax rebate. It's not about anything else about family or anything. If you are a HUF, if you are a Hindu united family, you enjoy certain tax rebate. Now, will it be maintained under the common law? Because common law won't be Hindu united family law, HUF law. So, those concerns are, that's why I said, all such concerns, which are genuine concerns, can be raised, will be discussed whenever that process begins of discussion about Uniform Civil Code. There are many such questions that are likely to come up. For example, I tell you, I handled Northeastern India for many years. In Northeastern India, there is a big concern that what will happen to tribal customs. We have different customs. All those customs, will they be accepted, accommodated, or they will be trampled upon? There is a concern. For example, we hear that, lot of WhatsApp University throws up a lot of stories about how so many new villages are coming up in Manipur, in the Kuki areas. They are all infiltrators. You hear the stories. Maybe there could be infiltrators. There is no doubt. The border is very porous. Kukis from Myanmar might be infiltrating into Manipur. I am not ruling it out. But actually there is a very interesting social custom among the Kuki tribals. The custom is the head of the village, when he wants to relinquish his position, he hands it over to his eldest son. बड़े बेटे को मुखिया बना देता है. The eldest son becomes the head of the village. The second fellow thinks it's injustice to me. He takes some 10 families from the village, goes 5 miles away, creates another village, he becomes head there. It's not a joke, it happens. That is how proliferation of villages happens also, besides infiltration. Now, what will happen in succession, in the Uniform Civil Code? What will the Uniform Civil Code say about this succession? These are questions that will come up. See, these questions are bothering the tribals very much. The tribals are up in arms in the Northeast that we don't want a Uniform Civil Code. Again, same case, na? You have not even seen the draft, already jumping. So we have to wait and see what all issues will come up. They will be addressed. See, essentially, please remember, bottom line is, you should give justice to women of our country. That is the main issue. And I tell you, even after Hindu Code Bill in 1954, 55, 56, in Rajasthan, in 1985 or 86, that, very heart-wrenching incident of sati happened. One lady committed sati. Rajiv Gandhi government, with the support of the entire opposition, the then opposition, उस समय opposition में केवल 2 BJP वाले थे, but the entire opposition together passed a law prohibiting sati. So you can't worship sati, you can't have a sati temple now in India. It is legally banned. Right or wrong? I mean, some people in Rajasthan protest. No, satis were devis. We should, respect them. That's a different. I'm saying, we even went to the extent of allowing even that reform. Even after 1956 reform, I'm saying. This is 1987. So it's a continuous process. Some you will address. Maybe some new issues will come up. But essentially, on 4-5 issues, we should deliver justice to our women. We delivered justice to Hindu women in 56 through property, but in 87, banning sati. You can't accept it, even if that woman wants. No, you can't do that. So, that is the whole purpose of it. That one has to clearly understand. All have to clearly understand. Thank you.
Hello. I have one question on policy making, sir. So I apply RTI for getting lots of information from government and other, institutions. My question is, last week I met with Supreme Court lawyer Ashwini Upadhyay's, thing. So my thing is, it's a time of filing PILs, petitions, and anyone, who want kind of some verdict to get reverted, they approach Supreme Court, right? And he told that he is in Supreme Court, he doesn't know what is the algorithm justice, they follow, in which his petition never get, any hearing. He has to wait for years, 2 years. But person like, Tista Sitalwad, for them, overnight, they open Supreme Court. So there is no code, no algorithm. So as a common civilian, we don't have law degree. How can we question the lawmaking? Because we know this is injustice. We know that.
Okay, got it. Nothing to do with Uniform Civil Code. It's about courts. I will only remind to you whether this preferential treatment to certain, celebrities is acceptable or not acceptable. But that same Supreme Court heard a similar petition at late in the night for Arnab Goswami also. I mean, we conveniently quote one name, but they do it. Whether it is right or wrong, a genuine question. Because there are 5 crore cases pending, 50 million cases are pending in Indian courts. And you are hearing a petition of one important celebrity at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at home. But justice has to be rendered. If case is serious, they have to attend to it. They needed to attend to particular cases, they attended to it. So, public opinion can be there. We can discuss animatedly on WhatsApp and social media. But there are certain provisions available to citizens.
You gave a very nice, ended the speech, sooner or later. How later? We finished it with saying how sooner or later we'll bring the code. How later?
मैं बता देता हूँ.
And if you have not even thought of bringing a draft on, you want us to take another janma for doing this?
For what? For doing what?
Another janma.
For
Waiting for the uniform civil code.
Uniform civil code.
Okay. Achha. With the amount, with the quantum of strength that the BJP has in the parliament, how come this has not even brought into the public eye in the sense that you are talking now?
Okay.
And also, if you do not follow it up with the things like Waqf Board Acts, with the implementation of penal codes, which is very, very poor in India, no policeman can dare to catch a criminal if he's a Muslim, Christian, or any other minority. Now tell me why
Okay,
is this,
I got it.
You are going at such snail paces.
I got it. See, firstly, you asked how long should we wait. You don't have to wait too long. In May 2024, give 350 seats to this government. No, we don't have. You say, अरे बैठो भाई, मैं बता रहा हूँ ना, बैठो ना, अरे बैठो. आर्गुमेंट क्यों कर रहे हो? मेरा सुनो ना पहले. सुनाने बीच में क्यों उठते? यही प्रॉब्लम है ना हमसे. 2/3 of the majority in both houses is the minimum requirement for it. With some difficulties, some tact, we managed to do away with Article 370. Isn't it? You people don't know. It's easy to jump up and down looking at WhatsApp. It takes an effort, friends. It takes an effort, and we have to follow certain constitutional procedures, and we did it. Now that is being questioned in Supreme Court. The case is before the Supreme Court. Supreme Court can take a view that what you did is not right. So we have to make sure no loopholes are left. And people should feel that you are not imposing anything on them. A good government is one, as per Chanakya, which draws its powers like how a honeybee draws honey from a flower. We may be angry. We say that no, do it tomorrow. No. Governments don't function like that. Have faith. This is a government which is committed to these things. But the procedure has to be followed. The procedure will, I told you, there are challenges from within Hindu community. I mean, there are challenges from tribals. We need to take them into account. We need to reassure them that no, nothing is going to happen to you. There is a concern that what will happen to the worship. Will it also come under the UCC? Those fears have to be allayed. Then in the house you need to have proper strength. You have to ensure. So much has to happen. Right now it requires more time. But the government is definitely thinking on those lines. That's why Prime Minister spoke about it. Which earlier Prime Minister spoke about it, you tell me. When an opportunity came, what Rahul Gandhi did was actually to undo it. Rahul Gandhi had 400 seats in the Lok Sabha, 402 members. Sorry, Rajiv Gandhi. Rahul Gandhi ka bichara nahi milega. Rajiv Gandhi had 402 seats. Actually, he did the reverse. Na? He actually reaffirmed the authority of the Muslim personal law. But here is a Prime Minister openly asked this question, why can't we have one uniform civil code? That means this government is thinking in the direction, it will happen, it requires some time. And in any case, whether uniform civil code comes or not comes, पुनर्जन्म तो पक्का है. हम इतने पुण्यात्मा है तो मोक्ष मिलेगा, नहीं तो आपको जन्म लेना ही है. क्या जन्म मिलेगा सोच ले बस. चल. Last two we will take here.
ಯುಸಿಸಿ ಅಲ್ಪಸಂಖ್ಯಾತರ ಮತ್ತು ಹಿಂದುಳಿದ ವರ್ಗಗಳ ರಿಸರ್ವೇಶನ್ಗೆ ಪರಿಣಾಮ ಬೀರುತ್ತಾ?
No. As I said, UCC deals with only those 4-5 issues that I mentioned. Only those 4-5 issues, nothing to do with social reservations that are available through constitution. It won't impact them.
Okay, the last question from this side.
Mike,
One question is, under Directive Principle 44, we have even cigarette consumption, alcohol consumption, and co-protection also. So, but anyhow, no government took any action on that. I mean, no government can even stop anything also. My question is, if it is under Directive Principle 44, and you make a law, already we saw some 2 laws. Very unfortunately, those laws are not implemented, either CAA or farm laws revoking or taking back also. And Article 370 is also under contest in Supreme Court. So under these circumstances, how far this particular even 200, 350, 400 and all will work? That is number one. Number two is the secularism is the main reason for this UCC. Because if secularism is the main reason, secularism has already destroyed us. Is it going to further destroy the Hindu causes? This is my question.
okay, secularism has not destroyed us. What destroyed us was pseudo-secularism. The false interpretation or understanding of secularism. Secularism meaning respect for different viewpoints, different faiths is integral to Hindu thinking. Integral. So if you are a Hindu, you have to be what others think as secularism, you have to be sarva pantha samadar. You should respect every different faith. That pseudo-secularism where appeasing some minority communities is what has caused a lot of harm to us. You know, Article 44 is only about Uniform Civil Code. But Directive Principles are 14, 15 articles which deal with other issues like cow slaughter is one issue. You know, I tell you something very interesting. Fundamental duties, there was no mention of it in Indian Constitution until 1976. We had no duties. We only had rights. In 1976, when Constitution was amended, Article 51B, I think, was incorporated, making 10 points as fundamental duties of all of us. Fundamental duties. But again, like all other directive principles, these fundamental duties are also non-implementable by state. And meaning, if you don't follow the duty, you can't be punished. We are very strong on cow slaughter directive principle. Why are we not strong on 51? Why are we not saying that if fundamental duties are not followed, they should be punished? We should talk about it. So directive principles have to be implemented by state, but to be followed by all of us citizens. And to the question of cow slaughter, you are right, it's not properly implemented, but in our country, 24 states have cow slaughter ban laws. 24 states. But they are not implemented. Even Karnataka has a law. But they don't implement it simply. So, will that happen to Uniform Civil Code? I mean, as I said, we can't be talking about what will happen in the future. We can only say that this country needs a proper law that treats women respectfully, gives across dignity, treats all citizens equally. It's only two contentions, nothing against any religion or anything. To that extent, yes, Uniform Civil Code should come. Let us hope that citizens sincerely follow that, sincerely, follow all the directive principles one by one, but starting with now that Uniform Civil Code will be implemented. Friends, I unfortunately have to take a flight back to Delhi. It's a great pleasure talking to you. My pranams to all of you. Thank you.